Hey everyone,
Hey,
welcome to episode, I think this is, what
54.
episode? 54, look at that. We've been doing this a hot minute.
Yeah, just a little bit. It always surprises me when I look at our episode count. This one and around Grandfather Fire always surprise me because it's like, my God, have we been doing this for that long? And it's like, yeah, actually we have.
That's a good thing. That means you enjoy it.
This is true. This is true.
So before we get too far underway, I would like to make a prayer.
Yeah, please.
Hail to the healing gods and goddesses. Hail to the blessed ones. The Vetir, whose specialty is healing. To the ancestors who healed, whether through the hands, the heart, the mind, or the spirit. Doctors and nurses. Herbalists. Cunning folk. Spiritual specialists, incubators. All of you from Asclepius to Zagreus, all you holy ones, and Mengloth especially among mine. Hail to you of the healing hands, the healing ways, the healing voice, the healing ears. Thank you for the medicinal drinks. Thank you for the medicinal teas. Thank you, bone setters, for binding and lashing and bringing things back together from bone to bone, from blood to blood, from flesh to flesh. Thank you for wholeness. Hailum, hailum, hailum. Hail to you, O holy ones, who are ever with us, healing us inside and out. Hail to you all. Best to all. So,
Hey, we've got Finn,
yay!
Kim, and Emily in the chat already.
That's
Nice
awesome.
to see y'all. So how's things going?
Yeah. We just in general in here.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's going all right today. It's been like, I think it's been a year since I was on here, almost.
Yeah, about that.
Pretty close. So
I think it was last October.
life be lifing. But it's in a better place now. So that's good.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's like half the fight right there.
Yeah, no, it surely is. How about you, Sarenth? How's things?
They could be better. I got hurt at work. So both my shoulders are in some serious pain and my lower back. I am on the mend, and that requires physical therapy, and that sucks. But I am enjoying my drinks tonight. Celebrated my wife's birthday today, which was awesome.
Happy birthday to her.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And it's a really interesting coincidence that her and my mom have birthdays one right after the other. So my mom was yesterday, she's today. And then my son is the day after my father's birthday.
Interesting.
Yeah. And my father-in-law, who is passed, is the day after mine. It's very weird shenanigans going on with birthdays in this family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little odd.
I have something similar in mine too, actually.
Oh, neat. Okay.
My siblings, because I have two sets from different marriages on both sides, they have clusters of birthdays together.
Interesting.
And even like is it my mother and her current partner, their birthday is like next, like 4th and 5th, right next to each other. So, bunch of Capricorns in this house. It's interesting. But yeah. So yeah, I've got a couple clusters too. But the bonus of that is that it's really hard to forget a birthday. And if you do, you got a second chance on someone else.
I mean, there is that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I still manage to forget, birthdays regardless. So, whatever. That's just because time is extremely fake.
Real quick. Congratulations, Finn.
Oh, yeah. Finn got a new house.
Nice.
Congrats, Finn.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oof. So it's been a day because I actually went to PT today.
Oh.
How them shoulders feeling?
Oh, they suck. They suck. Yeah, the first thing out of the physical therapist's mouth was, so are your arms improving? I'm like, dude, I got hurt last week. No, like maybe a 10% improvement if we're lucky.
Right. No, I feel that actually. I had my partner work on my carpal tunnel wrist right before the show, so my arm is just like better, but also angry.
Mm-hmm.
I was ripping up a bunch of carpet about 2 days ago, so my shoulders suck.
Oh God.
We're all just in great shape. I
was mid ripping them up, and I was like, my age hurts. It is official. This has hit me. I can't do those things anymore.
My age. I'm gonna start using that. That's fantastic.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Right.
Luckily, I had my niece and nephew here, and they helped me a lot. I made the small one get the smallest little crevices that I could not get to, and I was not going to try because then I wouldn't be able to stand back up. But overall, we did it, and it's much better now. Things are arranged and stuff differently, and it's helped the energy so much.
Very nice.
But it hurt. It hurt.
Yep.
As things worth it often do.
Y'all. That's it.
Y'all.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, that's fair.
That's a whole mood.
Yeah.
I appreciate the pain because it lets me know I'm not dead.
Yes.
I appreciate the pain because if I didn't feel pain and I was having issues moving my arms, that would mean something's terribly wrong.
Yes, that is one of those. If you don't feel pain and you should be,
yeah,
that's one of those. If the burn hurts, that's actually a good sign because when the burns stop hurting, you did way more damage.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that how healing often is?
It's true.
It often looks uglier or feels uglier before it looks or feels better.
Well, I mean, especially when you first get injured, you're like, I'm probably okay, because in my line of work, when you first get hurt off of a confrontation, your adrenaline spiked. You're not feeling nothing
right
for that first half hour, 45 minutes, and then it's like, oh no.
What has happened?
Hey, boss, I think that encounter jacked me up. Oh, yeah, why is that?
I'm feeling in a lot of pain.
The adrenaline's starting to wear off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a mandated check-in for you like 30, 45 minutes after as part of the process. I mean, I'm not surprised, but also
they do actually. We are required to check in and make sure that we're okay, and if we experience pain at any point, we're supposed to file a workers' comp.
Okay, cool.
Like immediately.
Yeah.
So we do have procedures in place to catch that crap. It's just that sometimes people don't pay attention or they hide it for some reason.
Because yeah.
Stupid macho culture.
Yeah, I've had at a previous job, I worked QA, which was safety was also wrapped up in. And I'm such a freaking safety nut. You can ask Jason. He was perfect for me. We had a kid working in the lab who we were using some chemicals that absolutely need a chem hood without a chem hood because that place was a show. And the kid got a nice face full of it and almost passed out and this, that, and the other, and didn't file a safety report or anything. We actually didn't hear it from him. We heard it from somebody else. And when we're like, hey, what's going on? Just wanted to check on you, make sure that, everything's okay. We heard like something happened. Who told you? Nothing happened. Who told you? All right. Just trying to make sure you're okay. That's all. You're not in trouble. It's going to be fine. If you don't want to make a report, you don't have to. We just want to make sure you're okay. Yeah. No. He was fine. There's almost certainly no long-term effects because that chemical doesn't tend to have long-term effects.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. So I should have started with that. Kid's probably fine.
It doesn't tend to.
Not overdoing it. Sorry.
Not overdoing it while you are healing can definitely be a challenge. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Everything's fine. It has light sticking out of body.
Well, also knowing when you're at a point in healing that you can do more things is tricky too.
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of like making yourself calm down. It's also sort of you're on a whole new gauge of like what even works for you. And one day it might be different than the next even because it can backslide some depending on what kind of injury it is and stuff.
Yep.
So
So with all that being said, that's why I wanted the prayer tonight to be to healing prayer. Gods.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It was fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. It's just, especially because so many people in the various communities I'm a part of have come forward with various prayers and such on my behalf, prayers, magic, offering energy work, etc. I wanted to give something back. And I also want to give a special shout out to our friend Olivia, who did some prayers to the kami on my behalf. And I really appreciated that. And some of the offerings that are out tonight are for them as well.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Sarenth, though, 100% had a boom welding machine follow me at a previous job, and it was a few hours later that Payne said,
yeah, no, that happens.
Yeah.
With any kind of trauma situation, you're going to be like, oh, no, check in an hour or two later, because that's when the adrenaline really kicks off, and then you're feeling it.
Yep. Can confirm.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just staring down my cat because she wants to play with the prism in the window by batting it against the glass.
Oh, that's what that noise is. Okay.
That is what that noise is. Man.
I'll be honest, I can't hear it. That's okay.
Yeah. But the only threat she responds to from a distance is an arc lighter.
That's fair.
If I hold it, she goes, I wasn't doing anything. And I've never, just for clarity, I've never used it on her. Okay.
I mean, I assume.
She doesn't like the hissing sound.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Stay in your bed. Yeah. Anyway.
That's so funny.
So if occasionally I'm just like death staring off, it's not spirits, it's my freaking cat.
It's your cat. No, that tracks. Look, it happens. Ugh. So, what is everyone drinking tonight?
I don't know what it's called, but I found the recipe because I was like, what do I have?
Oh.
Because I am on newer meds. And so I can't just shot and stuff anymore. Those days are dead to me. So I'm looking at mixed drinks and things like that. And I found one that mixes milk, which I used oat milk, vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, and honey, and spiced rum. And I was like, yeah, all right, let's try it. Like, it's pretty good. The honey also could be simple syrup, but I warmed it up first, so it like gelled really well, and then it's pretty good. And I'm not one for milky drinks, so.
Oh yeah. I like creamy drinks like that. One, they tend to be pretty spiced, or they're a White Russian variant.
I mean, anything spiced, I'm in.
Yeah. Also, if you hear explosions, it's people are setting off fireworks. Fireworks is a big thing in Bay City, so.
Oh God.
Tis the season.
Tis the season indeed.
I am drinking. Somebody left this at the midsummer party, so it's been drunk. It's Dark Horse Brewing. We the people plead the fifth s'more.
S'more.
Yep. It's.
I think that was Melkor.
Well, it's awesome. It's bourbon barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's a Russian Imperial.
It's 11% ABV. It's fucking awesome.
That's actually interesting. So most bourbon barrel and especially like s'more style stouts are American stouts as a base, which is a fairly distinctly different style than a Russian Imperial Stout. I actually at this point probably prefer bourbon barrel aged stouts to be Russian Imperials because they're just different and the market is very saturated with American bourbon barrel stouts. So,
well, it's got a very obviously chocolatey sweetness to it, but it's also got this caramel taste to it, which I think is probably the bourbon barrel aging. It's real smooth and it's delightful. And
there's the word again. That word again.
Well, it is. I don't know what else to call it.
No, you're fine. I'm just teasing you.
I mean, it sounds delightful. To be fair.
Yeah, no.
Well, it's smooth in that like chocolatey kind of sense.
Yeah, the texture feels smooth in your mouth.
Yeah, like it's literally smooth. Yeah. As opposed to like bitey.
Yeah,
like because I've had some ale bourbon barrel aged stuff where it's got the bite of the bourbon. It doesn't have that. It's got the peatiness to it, like the
smokiness.
Yeah, that's the words.
Yep. No, I gotcha. That's interesting.
Yeah, I likes it.
Yeah.
It's a pity they only left one can.
Yeah. I'm trying to think because obviously I was at the party and I'm like, it wasn't mine. It couldn't have been Jason because he doesn't drink beer. He's allergic.
That sucks. Yeah.
It does. It does suck, especially because he likes beer.
Yeah. Oh no, that sucks even more.
Yeah, it's like, yep, nope, that sucks, dude. I think it had to be Melkor.
Yeah. So the other thing I'm drinking is St. Ambrose Draft Mead Exorciser.
The Exorciser is very good. Yeah.
And I'm drinking that. Yeah. Fancy ass horn.
Nice. I am actually also drinking St. Ambrose. I'm drinking the Royal Reserve. Mead with grape neutral spirits, 19% ABV. That's why it's 19%. They cranked it up. Aged in American oak bourbon and cognac barrels for 2 years, Royal Reserve is fit for kings and queens. Discover flavors of butterscotch and honey with aromas of green melon, pear, and honeysuckle. Best served slightly chilled. St. Ambrose, for what it's worth, is also a Michigan meadery.
Yep.
It sounds smooth and sort of light.
Yes. So most bourbon and like generally barrel-aged stuff isn't very light. It tends to be quite heavy. This manages to have that barrel character and flavor very prominent and forward without being heavy, which is really interesting. It's also, you would never know that this was 19% tasting it.
Oh, God.
Oh, it is.
So it's dangerous.
This stuff's 6.5.
Yeah, it is extremely dangerous. I could drink that whole bottle tonight, no problem. I would pay for it, but I could easily, on accident, drink that whole bottle tonight.
That shit's really good. And you don't taste the alcohol in it at all. That stuff's dangerous.
Yep. Royal Reserve is probably my favorite mead on the market right now.
Wow.
It hits all kind of the sweet spots that I'm looking for. It does all the things that I want it to do.
So it beats a Schramm's for you?
Question.
Yes.
Because, like, meads, the best mead I ever had was a homemade mead. And
Okay.
I've been searching for good meads. I think I even said this in the Discord and all that. Like, what kind of viscosity are we dealing with there?
So this is really light. So this is almost like a sparkling, like, this reminds me of like a sparkling grape juice almost in terms of the brightness on the tongue.
Yeah. Okay. This one is not that. This one is, the viscosity is relatively high. Like, you can tell it's a mead. You can tell there's honey in it from the viscosity.
Yeah.
I'm rubbing my fingers like that makes any difference.
No, I get what you're saying, though. The feel of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a feeling.
That's how I tell viscosity of fluids, right? Like, when your fingers. It's in my mouth. I'm not actually touching it. It's just,
Right.
brain things.
But with your tongue fingers,
Yeah.
you feel it out with your
tongue fingers. You feel it out with your tongue fingers. That's gonna live rent free in my head for a long time. Thank you for that.
You are very
It has a very good viscosity to it without being cloying or overly heavy.
okay. Nice.
And I think I will say, I do not think it is better executed than Schramm's like high profile stuff. But right now I prefer it because Schramm stuff tends to be sweeter than I want right now. Schramm stuff, this is on the dessert end of meads. Schramm's is even more so. Like, Schramm's tends to be very sweet. Extremely good. Let there be no mistake. Schramm's is
right, but there are different moods for different things.
Exactly. Schramm's is probably like the primo Michigan meadery here.
Yeah,
I would argue they're probably one of the best in the country.
And I didn't have any while I was there. Fine.
Yeah. I would say, in my opinion, Schramm's is the best in the country. There are alternate opinions that I wouldn't argue with on that, but in my opinion, they're the best in the country. Close seconds, in my opinion, are Garagiste in Florida and Superstition in, I believe, Arizona. Thirds
Not me Googling after this show.
Yeah, no, I will gladly throw these into the Discord too. Close thirds, in my opinion, not close thirds. Thirds, in my opinion, tied honestly are St. Ambrose and Bee Nectar. I would say that those are probably tied for thirds.
I'd agree with that.
And I would say Garagiste, Superstition, and Schramm's are all very hard to get.
And they're expensive for how much you get.
Yeah, they're very.
Like, you're going to pay like $40 a bottle.
Yeah.
Right.
However, they're really fucking worth it.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's absolutely worth it. I also don't drop the money on. I can find Schramm's any day of the week at my local liquor store because I'm so close to Schramm's. I don't buy Schramm's except for very rarely because it's expensive and
it's a treat.
It's a treat, right? Like,
yeah.
Don't ask me how much I just dropped at Total Wine. Just don't.
I've been there.
I don't. To be fair, we don't go very often.
Anytime something starts with "to be fair."
To be fair.
I walked into, this was obviously several months ago, but I walked into my local liquor store and was just not really planning on buying much. I had like one bottle or something, I think. And then I looked up and I saw that they had a bottle of Redbreast cask strength, which I didn't know existed because it was a new release until I walked into that store and saw it. And I was like, oh, I have to get it. And they were like, yeah, it's $100. And I'm like, oh. But I walked out with that bottle and I don't regret it, but also, oh.
When your budget wins this for you.
Yeah, it was just like $100 for one bottle. I don't regret it. Also, oh.
It's red breast. It's good shit.
Just repeat the mantra. I don't regret it. It's worth it to me.
It is.
Don't look at the bank account.
Yeah, I don't regret it. My bank account's a little mad at me, but I don't regret it.
Yeah.
Oh. Exactly. That's me.
Yep.
And yes, Cat Blackwell says we have to strategically plan our party's store visits. Yes, that's yep. That's a thing.
That makes sense.
But I've got good celebration whiskey for as long as the bottle lasts, and I don't break into it often. So, and I bought it and used it both for solstice or spring equinox, spring equinox and summer solstice. So, and my anniversary, which is also the summer solstice. That's the thing. But
well, summer solstice.
It's a big day for me.
It really is.
It's a holiday for Freyr. It's my anniversary. It's a big day.
Fuck.
Finn says, I was talked off the ledge of purchasing a Castle's Curse 26 year. $500.
God damn.
Ooh.
I'm going to say something.
Talked off the ledge.
I'm going to say something. And this is a controversial opinion. In my opinion, most bottles that are that old aren't that good and aren't worth the money. Because that long in an oak barrel and all you're going to taste is oak chips. It's going to be over.
You may as well just drink tannin.
Yeah, like it's going to be over oaked. You might as well just bite into a piece of wood, in my opinion.
And you know what? If you do spend money on that bottle, that's what you'll be eating, wood.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, other people completely disagree with that opinion, and that's perfectly fine. Like, to each their own.
Honestly, I don't think my palates refined enough to where I'd give a shit. I'm being honest. Like having drank on this show for as long as I have, and also having talked with a lot of coworkers about my drinking habits with regards to what I like, I doubt that I'd even appreciate any of the nuance they'd get out of a 25 year.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I tried a 25 year and I went, okay, that's pretty good.
I mean,
and I went on with my life, whereas some of these other guys will like swish this in their mouth and they'll make a real big thing of it. And it's like, all right, clearly I'm not there yet.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Do
I still drink that Old Crow? Come on. My cheap ass still does. Know it.
And you know what? Spending that money on that isn't going to make your palate be better. So
that's also true.
Not off the rip anyway, no.
Yeah.
No. I'll stand by though. Like I'll buy Wild Turkey 101, and that's a solid sipping whiskey.
Talk to me about turkey, because that used to be my old favorite.
Oh.
Yep.
That was my default.
Look, 101 is a solid whiskey. Like it really is.
And
nobody on this show believes me, but Old Crow is solid whiskey too.
The parties that I went to, I never had to share because nobody else wanted to fuck with it.
That's fair.
So it worked out. I could leave it at somebody's house and it was still there when I got back. Like it was great.
Fair enough. So Sarenth, it's funny. Kat, we went out. Kat is my partner. We went out for cocktails a long while ago.
Last summer.
Yeah, they're also sitting next to me. It's fine. They had the best old fashioned they'd ever had at this cocktail bar, and we're like, "What whiskey did you put in this?" Because it was a really, really good old fashioned. It was Old Crow.
That's
I thought it was
amazingly
hilarious.
funny.
Yeah. Also, this is very much true. Emily says, Sarenth, I think your palate has improved over the last few years, at least a bit. I'd say it's more than a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm also trying a lot more variety than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely attribute that to the show. I'm certainly buying a lot more variety of not only needs, but just alcohol in general. And I'm trying stuff that I normally would be like, I'd shy away from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, if nothing else, this show has challenged me to grow in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
There's flavors I definitely will never try again, like cheap rum.
Yeah.
When it says $3 for almost a fifth on the shelf, just don't fucking do it, kids.
Yeah. It's really fun, honestly. I will say it's been very fun and entertaining watching you learn and grow in your experiences with it. Because while it's certainly not a mirror of what mine was like, there's enough similarities, right?
No, I get you. Honestly, I feel like in a very different fashion, watching you grow and expand spiritually.
Yeah. Just, flip here.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I remember those times. Oh, I'm sorry.
You'll find out after. Oh, yep. No, that sucked, didn't it?
Nothing I tell you is going to prepare you for when that bitch hits you like a truck, but by God, you'll feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. Though I'll say it's probably better that you aren't learning the way that I learned, because there's a lot of alcoholism in the circles that I was learning from. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, certain amounts of trial and error I could do without, thanks.
Yeah, and like I was always drinking pretty good stuff, or at least well-reputed stuff. Some of it was bad, but that was mostly we were trying it because we knew it was bad. There's one beer, and I'm pretty sure I've told the story of it before, called Charles the Hammer.
Oh Christ!
It was made to break a record. So IBU's International Bitterness Units are a scale of how bitter a beer is. And they made it, I forget which brewery it is, but they made it in order to break the record for IBUs. Now, the human tongue can only taste bitterness up to a certain point. And then after that, you're just hitting numbers for numbers' sake. It doesn't really matter. And this was well past, like all of the IBU bitters are well past the human capacity to taste any difference between them, right? So they took alpha acid, which is the compound in hops that is bittering, pure alpha acid, and basically dumped it into the tank after it was done fermenting.
Oh Christ!
In a method called dry hopping versus wet hopping, which goes in during the boil. Yeah, so they dry hopped with straight alpha acid. And that was one of the worst things I've ever put in my mouth. It tasted like grapefruit stomach acid.
That's gnarly.
It was genuinely horrible. We tried it though. Why? Because you gotta. God, like it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be terrible, but you gotta. You don't do that. Don't do that. That was stupid. Don't do that. You don't subject yourself to pain just for fun.
Or do it, then make a podcast about it.
Or do what I'm doing exactly. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, for the clicks.
Or whatever.
Yeah, you'll have a story, like Finn's story over here in the comments.
Yeah, Wild Turkey plus bachelor party equals waking up naked in the front yard the next day. It's a whole ass fucking story. Is this a whole ass fucking story or a whole ass fucking story? Which is
maybe it's both.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
a whole ass fucking story.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, Emily, you is very much correct. It was not good. Yeah.
Whew.
Anyway, we're like over a half hour into the show. We have broached no topics of significance.
I thought we were here for the beer.
That too.
I'm just here for the vibes, honestly. I think that's kind of where everyone is at. Like,
I mean, we just came out of Midsummer, and that was a whole to do. I'm recovering. I know that a lot of the people in my circles right now are in some stage of recovering from their ass getting kicked.
Tongue fingers.
Hey, tongue fingers are significant. I mean,
it's that feeling. You know what I'm talking about with the. No, you don't. You aren't experiencing the physical sensation that I'm experiencing right now. The mouth feel is like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck does that mean, Maleck? Just like this.
Yeah, just like this.
Yeah.
Also, you guys, I said this to them right before they started, but the last time they had me on, I was sitting here eating collard greens like the whole time.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
And I was still eating. So I just must breaking bread. This must be a thing.
Nothing wrong.
As a matter of fact, when I saw y'all in person, I ate with you then. So
it was good times.
It was. It's a good thing. Yeah. No, and I'll say straight up though, I'm still recovering from the solstice. Like it's. I'm not here, y'all. That's actually a thing that, if you don't mind, I'm gonna dive into very slightly. I'm depressed right now. Like I'm going through it, and that's a thing that I don't think is talked about enough on shows like this. You know, is like, nah, I'm struggling to even pray right now. I'm struggling to do bare bones basics. That's how it is.
First of all, I highly respect you for bringing up this topic because this actually was kind of on my mind too. So I'm picking up the vibe that you're putting down there, because I'm on an upswing, but I hadn't been, as you know, for quite a while. And like, how do you practice when you're so in the dark? Not like, because I mean there is a the dark on one side that is a very good thing, but when you are in the depression state, it's hard to find joy in things. Like that's literally a part of depression.
Yes.
And if you're not finding joy or a sense of fulfillment in something like your spirituality, you start to question your spirituality.
Yeah. And it's not, for me, it's not that my faith has not wavered.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't believe or I doubt the existence or the intention or etc. Like my gods are here and I know that, and I can feel them still when I reach out, and I know that they want the best for me.
Yeah. What I mean by that though
is saying prayers. Like
what I mean by that though is not just questioning in terms of them, but like questioning your space with them, or your value or importance with them, or your ability to serve. Those things, because like it goes one way or the other. It's like, well, where are they? Or it is, where am I?
Yeah.
Why can't I do these things that I had before? Why is it not hitting the same?
Yeah. A very real sense of like, and it's funny, and this is kind of the bitch of it, right? Is that it doesn't make sense. Because mental illness is not like logical. Like, yeah, people can be affected by logical things and have inappropriate mental reactions to it, like anxiety attacks or depression. Why? Because, bad things happen to you. You got depressed. Yeah, that's a thing that happens. In my case, that's not what's going on. Like, do I have a lot of stressors going on? Yeah, absolutely. I've got boards coming up. I've, all kinds of things.
Mhm.
But like mostly things are going pretty all right.
Yeah.
And like when I reach out, I can still feel them. Like it's still
Yeah.
there. It's not logical that I'm fucking depressed. It just is. And it's how to phrase it.
If you don't mind me jumping in.
Yeah.
This is why I beat the discipline drum so goddamn much. Because no matter what I'm feeling, I'm going to do the thing that I'm obligated to do. Because when my practice relies on me feeling a certain way, that's not very reliable for me. Right? So if I say I'm going to do spiritual hygiene every day, I'm going to do fucking something, even if it's just mumbling the same cleansing prayer I've mumbled 1,000 times before.
No,
Even if I'm just doing the bare minimum, I have the floor of the bare minimum to rest my feet on. This is why, for me, rote prayers make so much sense, because not only because Catholic upbringing, but I don't have to think about it. I don't have to feel the words. Like, extemporaneous prayer is really hard when you're not feeling it.
No, 100%. And I've been relying on that. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Just really quick, I just wanted to say what you just said, Sarenth, reminds me of something that my mother's always told me, who is also a practitioner, which is, growing up, I heard half-ass is better than no-ass. A half-ass witch is better than a no-ass witch. If you are only half-assing what you can do, at least you're doing something.
Yep.
And that is enough until you can do more.
Yeah. I feel that too. Unfortunately for me, if I have obligations, when I hit this state, I will intentionally rail against them. Because it hits just right on the defiant side of ADHD, where I'm like, no, fuck you, actually. And it's like, that's a bad response to have when you are saying that to the people who are actually your support system. Yes, it is. I didn't say it was logical. I just said it was there.
So Kim, I think Kim makes a good point that I'm also going to push back against a little bit. Y'all, sometimes darkness is just meant for rest or hibernation. God damn it. I muted myself again. Oh, like I meant to click off the comment. So I will agree and also push back. And here's where my pushback is, because sometimes the darkness is self-justifying and it's there to eat you. It's not there to be your friend.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at right now. Like, it's...
And there's different kinds of darkness, right? Like sometimes that you need to curl up and just give your depression the attention it's demanding.
Well, there's a difference between resting and wallowing. There's a difference between setting in something and identifying with it.
Yeah.
That.
There's somebody, I forget who, a while back said, are you resting or are you rotting?
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now, I know that if I stop moving, right, I'm doing what I can, and that has to be good enough, because I can't do more. But if I stop and just let myself be, I will just rot, and it won't go away. This is for me right now, and this isn't true for everyone, and it's not true for me all the time. There's been times where I needed to just stop. But for right now, I know myself and I know the pattern that I'm in. If I stop, I'll stop. And it won't start back up until I start back up.
Well, inertia's a motherfucker,
getting that
right?
momentum going is always so hard.
Yeah.
So it's like, at least just keep the momentum with what you can.
When you can only half-ass, invite Finn over for some wild turkey.
I will make a note of that.
Yeah, Kim says that's a great phrase, Maleck.
Yeah, it's not mine. When I remember who it's attributed to, I will. It's not Melkor. It's It's Kai. Yeah. I will tag them in the Discord because they are in the Discord, and it's their quote, so I will tag them and credit them in the Discord.
Yeah, and I mean the thing with a lot of these issues, hangups, mental health crises, etc., is it's not like there's no fucking like destination, ultimate goal here, like in some religions, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're trying to attain heaven or enlightenment or nirvana or the cessation of samsara. We're just trying to live in a relationship with our gods, ancestors, and Vatir as animists and polytheists.
Yes.
So
you literally bitched about ascended masters last time I was here. So
did we?
Continue. Yes.
Honestly, I might have been too fucking.
It was great.
We
No.
probably bitching
I
for
agree,
something
though.
about,
Very good point.
what's her name? Theosophy.
Oh, Helena Blavatsky.
Blavatsky, yeah, who wrote a lot about the ascended masters
Yeah.
that she was supposedly receiving messages from.
Christ, here we go.
There was a whole fucking thing. Like, I mean, she was
I'm shooting
either
whiskey at this
crazy or
point.
making things up or both. Yeah, she was also.
God damn.
You did that to yourself.
I did, but fuck, that's good.
Also, Theosophists come for me. Blavatsky was either crazy or lying to you, one of those. Or both. You know.
Blavatsky? Oh no, she was definitely a charlatan. She changed her name 3 different times, and every time it was to dodge this, that, or make some bullshit up.
Yeah. You know, fight me, it's fine. I am depressed and I will still kick your ass.
Before we get on the Blavatsky hate train too hardcore,
I thought you were about to be like, I am depressed and I have nothing to lose. Fight me.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
No, I have a lot
That got
to lose.
dark, Maleck.
It's actually very nice. I really like my life. It's things are great. I have a lot to lose. It's fine.
But that goes to show also that depression isn't always because something triggered it or catapulted it.
right.
It's fucking chemicals in your brain.
Yeah. I mean, depressed but motivated by spite is a thing.
That's a whole mood.
I mean, the thing with that I keep coming back to is that no matter your mental state, having a ground floor for practice is just going to help you out. Mm-hmm. If you know that you're inclined to rot, at least make that something that's useful for you. If you know that you're inclined to stop and go no further, you've got to make a ground floor for yourself so that you can push off and get some momentum going again. It's not, when I say discipline, I don't mean taking the Salice, slapping it around your fucking leg and tightening it till you bleed. I mean giving yourself the grace on the one hand, but giving yourself enough of a ground floor that even if you are in rot mode, as opposed to just I'm in my feels mode, you have somewhere to go with it, that you're not just, well, instead of just sitting there and rotting, you go from just rotting to compost, right?
Yeah.
So you'll take your shit and you'll do something useful with it, as opposed to I'm just going to wallow in it.
Do something useful.
Hey, you know, a lot of good quotes out of this episode.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we need to open up a fucking red bubble.
Yeah.
But I mean,
that reminded me of something now, and I can't remember what it was. So continue. Continue, and maybe we'll move back around.
So go ahead, Maleck.
And when I say like, your floor doesn't have to be a lot, right? Like it can be very genuinely like what I am managing to do right now is I am doing my basic hygiene, you know, cleansing, shielding, the whole bit, which is one action for me basically, right? Because I am to the point where I shield subconsciously. I don't need to do that consciously anymore. I just do it. And then cleansing work is more than anything for me at the moment. And then I say a couple of basic prayers, which amount to basically good morning and good night with a couple extra flares added on. And that's about it. You know, 2-3 prayers a day, and then some basic energy work.
So rot does serve a purpose too. It brings new energy and new endeavors, but it is a balance. That's kind of what I was making my point with regards to compost. Because if it's just rot soup, the problem is that it's not.
It doesn't progress onto the natural flow of things. It's not part of the cycle.
That to me is where I'm making the distinction, but it might be just a distinction without meaning.
Actually, no, it's okay. So I'm gonna go science mode for a second. This metaphor, it'll pan out, trust me. So there are in compost, there are two kinds of microbial processes that are happening that are breaking down the organic material in order to create new dirt, right? So you've got anaerobic, which is without oxygen, and then aerobic, technically air, with oxygen. In composting, you want your compost to stay aerobic. You want it to keep oxygen, because anaerobic will generally create the kind of compost that you don't want. It either doesn't fully break down into dirt and turns into kind of a sludge, or a lot of times with anaerobic composting, you get pathogens, right? Disease-causing microorganisms that can get onto your food as they grow up through the dirt, all kinds of nasty stuff, right? Because they'll continue to persist in the soil. If you are letting yourself, in this metaphor, the compost, be anaerobic instead of aerobic, if you're, in this case, rotting instead of doing something useful, you're going to keep bad habits, even when you get out of it. You put that anaerobic compost on the soil, neat, you just put pathogens all over your veggie garden. So those are bad habits that you picked up while you were in a bad state, while you were depressed, and they stayed with you.
It's worth pointing out that generally,
too long didn't read version, you want your bacteria to do a remix.
Sorry, say one more time.
I said, so too long didn't read version, you want your bacteria to do a remix.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, air is good for things.
Little sweatbands. Anyway.
And one of the chief ways that you do this with composting traditionally is you just literally flip your compost.
Yep.
And especially if your compost is going cold on you. Now, you can do cold composting that takes a lot longer to break down. You can do aerobic composting over a longer period of time. It just takes longer. But if you're trying to jumpstart it, you literally will take a pitchfork and flip your compost over so it heats.
Yep.
And so breathing is important. Right. Weird. And that might be your ground floor, is just doing 4-4 breath.
Yep.
I remember what I was going to say.
Box breathing. Go for it. Yes, please go for it.
So we were talking about discipline and sort of your ground basis and that kind of thing. And it reminded me of something that I tell my mentees, which every time I get a new mentee, I check in with them. If they're having a hard time, I check in with them on this, which is protection and power. And for me, there's a lot of instances that you could translate this to, but for the purpose of a check-in, I translate protection to your boundaries, not only in spell work, but with others, relations, energy in general. Your boundaries with self as well come into play. And then power for me is self, quote unquote, love, but we could say value, we could say worth, whatever you want to put in there. But it's your relationship with yourself and how you are valuing that. And what I ask them is, how are these two doing? Do they need tending? Have you cleansed and grounded with those? Have you worked on those? Have you done a check of your house, so to speak, to make sure that you're not leaking energy somewhere on something? And then you're wondering why you're feeling so drained and why you have no direction and all of, because you're just like pouring it out like a bucket with a bunch of holes in it. But another thing beyond that is, once you know those two, you do housekeeping, which is cleansing and grounding, blessing if you have it in you, like, and which that involves, like you were saying, Sarenth, prayer and doing your devotionals, your offerings, like coming back to center with ancestors and your roots, even if it is simple as, like, for me, I grew up here. And so one of the things when I have nothing else that I know I can do and I am feeling very dark, because I also deal with depression, anxiety, and CPTSD. So one of the places that I know I can always go to is the salt water. I go to the beach and I don't have to get in entirely, but I stick my feet in it and I walk the shore and I feel my sand, my feet sink in that sand, you know, and become one with that and that ebb and flow of that water and the salt within it. And there is something grounding. There is something humanizing, if that makes sense, about it, like humbling, but empowering at the same time, and cleansing, just like soul cleansing about it for me. And one of the things that I also say for them is, like, find what that is for you. Because it might not be as clear as, like, roots like that. It could be some other version of where your roots are. But what is that for you? Because that's what you're needing right now.
So Emily says, just getting outside is one of my helpful baselines, both for solar deity connections and nature spirit connections. Being outside brings me physically closer to certain spirits when I acknowledge them. Yeah. And especially if your stuff is linked to seasonal affective disorder, that might be your silver bullet or silver lining that you need to look for, because it can be really easy to be like, well, I'm just going to sit here in the dark, when that's what feeds the beast to start with.
Yeah. I want to say two things real quick. One, I want to point out how excellent Cris is at, you know, their job and everything, and highly recommend. I am one of Chris's mentees, and I want to, you know, tout that service. And we're going to do at the end of the episode, we're going to do a pimp your stuff, please, because they're very good at what they do, and I firsthand will recommend their services. I've had, how many times have I just broken down crying from like one word, like one sentence things you said?
We were counting those? Shit.
No, we weren't. No, we weren't. I was just, you know, wondering if you happened to. That's all.
Are we counting the ones where I pulled you to the side?
Probably, yeah. We should probably do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cris is really, really quite good at what they do, and their mentee stuff.
To be fair, it's all in love. When they say that we made them cry, it's all in love. Okay.
Like, this is not a like, oh no, Cris hurt. No, it's like a, oh, I needed to hear that. But also, doing the work perpetuates itself, right? Much like, you know, the depressive states can perpetuate themselves, so does doing the work. And I say that because as Cris is sitting here talking as one of, you know, their mentees and listening in that way, not that this is not stuff you've told me before, it absolutely is, but that's not the point. Hearing it again is good. But as you're sitting here talking about it, I'm going through those checklists and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm doing the work just sitting here listening to you talk, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things, once you start getting into, like, I want to be extremely clear. I'm very depressed. I'm having a hard time with everything. And also, as I'm sitting here, because I have all of these literally years of groundwork dealing with my depression as appropriately as I can, doing the shadow work, not that I like that word, but it's a handle, it's fine. Anyway, doing the spirit work on myself to get myself to that point. All of the meditation that I've been doing in past months, all of that stuff, it builds on itself, because 4 or 5 years ago, I wouldn't be making progress live on air, right? But I am. Just from this conversation, I'm making progress. Why? Because I know that I need to, and I've got the mental habits now to start working on it.
And you were the one that brought this topic up, which is why I said I really respect you bringing it up live on air, because it is something that's really hard for a lot of people to talk about. And it's so easy to talk about what you've done that's right, or what worked, or how well it's going. But it is very hard to talk about when everything seemingly is going very well, but it does not feel right.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And like, and very much that's where I'm at. Like, things are going great in my life. Like, I'm looking to buy a home at some point in the near future. I'm gonna take my boards and almost certainly pass here in the next month. Career's going well. Love life is going well. My friends are goddamn fantastic. You people are beautiful. You know,
Yeah.
everything is going right. I'm depressed.
Yeah. Which again, it's not the things around you. It's the chemicals. It's your brain. It's
Your brain.
And the thing is with mental health, because we can't see it, we don't take it as seriously, which you would think as spirit workers, it would be a little different. But there is still this sort of, why am I like this?
Yeah.
And like, shit happens. In terms of my, in the words of my brother, who is ever so eloquent, shit happens anyway. Like, some days life is going well, but you just don't feel good. You don't feel right. I deal with CPTSD, as I said. So like, some days I will wake up and I feel like I am in trouble, that I am a fuck up, that I have done something. You ever, when you're a little kid and like you break a vase or something and it's your mother's favorite vase, and like all day you feel like pins and needles, like something's about, like the shoe's about to drop. That is how I feel when I'm having that.
Yep.
And I have no reason in particular that it's happening a lot of the times. I just wake up that way. And sometimes it's a word or a tone or something like that, or a door opening really fast or something like that. But overall, usually, I have no idea. I just woke up and it's like that. And suddenly I feel like I'm in trouble. And it's neural fucking pathways that have been trained into me and my body thinking it's still where it was, and it's not. And so then I have to go, okay, right, let's reground, let's call my energy back to me, let's like, let's get whole and in one place here. Let me connect to my body, because part of CPTSD is dissociation. It's really good for journey work. It's not so great for mundane shit, right? So, that is also, I will start connecting strings back to my body visually, and anchoring myself back in. And that's just something that happens some days. Does it make me not a good, spirit worker? Does it make me a shitty mentor? No. I'm still good at what I do. I still have the knowledge that I have. I still have the experiences I have. It just means on days.
It's honestly, it's really fucking toxic that people expect mentors or just spiritual folks well, not just superhuman, but to always be on. That shit is draining.
It's so fucking draining, Sarah.
It is.
It absolutely is.
There's when I was still on TikTok, which technically I still am on TikTok, I'm just deleted it off my phone. Because the ADHD did not liked it too much. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a Christian pastor that I followed, who frequently said something along the lines of, and I don't remember his name, unfortunately, who frequently said something along the lines of, was it Pastor Dan? Mm-hmm. Pastor Dan, probably. The guy who gets in fights with the Warhammer 40K fan base all the time. Yeah,
Pastor Dan.
Pastor Dan. Okay, cool. Thank you for my stage left support here. Anyway, technically you're stage right. Anyway, Pastor Dan has a thing that he would say pretty frequently of priests or pastors should get to call in atheists sometimes, right? Because fucking some days you just don't feel it. And that sucks, but it's there. It's like, what's gonna happen? No, I'll be fine in like 3 days. Just right now, I'm atheist. Why? Because that's not currently what I'm feeling. But like, it gets to the point of just like.
I think some days, and I don't know if you'll understand what I'm saying when I say this, but some days it's holy to simply just try to exist.
Yeah.
Just fully being there and exist. No to-do list.
Yeah.
Just exist.
My God.
And I've been asked, like, how do you feel? How are you? And I don't know. On those days, it's simply, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here and I'm hearing. This is me being here.
I think, too, the thing about a lot of... this is especially true in the pagan communities of whatever stripes those are. A lot of us who have these kinds of roles, whether it's we're doing a show or we're providing a service, we're asked to wear a lot of extra hats, which may be in the long term inappropriate to our functioning. Like I've worn the administrator hat at the same time as wearing a spiritual advisor hat, and those are very hard on their own, and they're incredibly draining together. And I do not recommend them. I don't. And the reason is that there are certain jobs that you do as an administrator that are going to make you feel like total shit, that have to get done if the organization's going to function.
Right.
That are going to either be at loggerheads, or it's going to just require so much effort to maintain the balance between the spiritual and the needs of the administrating that it's a pain in the ass. And not only are not a lot of people who are in these spiritual specialist roles suited to that, a lot of us don't have proper training for that shit. And it is very encumbering to expect that somebody's going to be an admin as well as be a priest or a spiritual counselor or a reader or a take your pick. Because
also don't forget a video editor and a marketer,
right,
and a social media manager, and absolutely.
So like when people are like they're passing around Facebook yet again got inundated with this shit about people requiring folks to pay for spiritual services, and I'm like, look, you're taking up time that I could be spending with my family. If you're not paying me, there's a problem.
Yeah. And you know what? The thing is I literally did that before I did this. And guess what happened? I got yelled at my 9 to 5 for talking to people because they would come to me with their problems. And I'm not going to turn someone away if I know that I can help.
Right.
And like in that instance, it's not like I'm getting paid to do it professionally or anything like this. I just, they know about me. Or they don't know about me and they just are guided to come up to me and start.
Sometimes my light bulb is on for no fucking reason and I'm shopping.
Yeah. And like I have one of those little quest diamonds above my head in a game, and people just kind of stop sometimes. And the thing is when I was doing a 9 to 5 and I wasn't getting paid for my services, I was still doing my services, but I was getting yelled at my 9 to 5 and written up because it's costing me my money.
Right. Yep.
So I would rather do it and get paid for the service that I'm doing anyway while I'm stocking milk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I also want to read some of the comments we've had.
Yeah, please do. We've had a bunch.
I go find a friend-shaped tree and ask to root with them and be held by their roots. Shorter version is I go hug a tree. Yeah.
Yep.
I second Maleck's review. Chris is very good at getting to the core, such loving, helpful, and direct advice and empathy.
Yeah.
Kat mentioned I got to get my hands in dirt some way myself, gardening, planting flowers, or whatever. Just literally got to get my hands in the ground, referring to things to move through.
Yeah.
And then Kat also said, reminds me of the sudden onset of, man, things are going well. Too well. Cue his sense of impending doom.
Yeah.
And Emily's like 100% Kat.
Yeah.
I'm here, and I'm hearing is getting adopted. I like that phrase myself, too. And then finally, so far, I think that's one reason why small spiritual groups often implode. A few people have to wear so many hats at the same time. I know, having done this a couple of times and had at least one or two of my groups blow up in my own face spectacularly because I was doing too much and then did way more than I should have, and then fucked up really good.
Yep. Done the same.
I've hurt people doing this. Like, don't fucking do it if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Burnout is real, and it's ugly when it happens.
In my case, it went beyond burnout because I was spiritually abusive in this case, to the point where the group said, get the fuck on. The group that I helped found. So, and rightly they should have. And that's the thing that I keep trying to like bring people back to. If you don't account for these things and the fact that people are human and they need resources, they're going to take it out of people, even if it's in an abusive way.
Yep. And
this is not me apologizing either for my behavior at that time, nor for abusive behavior, but it is something that I've seen happen to. Well,
yeah,
you're being honest about it, and frankly, no one here has the right to forgive you for that.
No,
that's not ours.
But.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, man. Whatever.
Yeah, like no. You and I have talked about that at some length before, and I've been honest with you about that in the past. Is it is not mine to forgive you for things that you did to other people. I also don't, there is forgiveness and there is grace, and also I can't be the one to forgive you for past mistakes because you didn't hurt me in that way.
Right. No. And I just to be clear about it, I have talked with the people who've been affected, and I have done as much as I possibly humanly can to correct the situation. And so, I go on from there. But I talk about it because it's way too easy to dehumanize on the one hand and just turn people into monsters who have perpetuated horrors and wrongs.
I was just fucking talking about this the other day. I said, and I thought about even making it a status for a quote, because when I said it, someone was like, oh, yes, I'm using that. But I don't like to make villains of people. It gives them too much power.
Yep. And also, it is very easy for us to put people on pedestals.
Yep. Heroes in the same respect.
Yeah, right? Like, Sarenth, you're a big name. Flat out.
Sarah's like, what?
I know what I am, but I'm not comfy with it.
Matt, no, you're a big name. And the fact is, you fucked up. I've been there for you fucking up before.
Yeah.
Hell, I didn't catch it. I fucked up that night too.
Yeah, neither one of us did. And the thing is that it's not about hyper focusing on the fact that I fucked up. It's what do I do from here, right? To fuck up is human, right? You're gonna fuck up. There is no situation in which you are gonna absolutely be perfect.
No.
My gods don't hold me to that standard. It'd be foolhardy for me to hold other people to that standard. And you can, in fact, change your mind and change your life. Fucking weird, right? So, on the one hand, give yourself the grace, but on the other hand, take yourself and every other fucking person you look at completely off the pedestal, because it's not going to do you any good.
Yes. Yeah.
Every one of us is human, and that means we can and will fuck up. Understand that, hold people to account for it. And also, there is a difference between holding someone accountable, and this is coming from me, the most stickler bastard on the planet about, like, no, you will be accountable for your bullshit. No, there is a difference between holding someone to account and raking them over the coals to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
Yes.
At a certain point, and I am absolutely guilty of this, I've absolutely done it. At a certain point, you are on a vengeance quest because it makes you feel better to be mad at somebody than it, and you're not.
And then the issue is with you, not with them.
There is a point at which social justice becomes performative if it's not for the purpose of justice.
Right. There's I forget who said it. One of the Jewish creators that I am very fond of said this, which is, you need to love Jews more than you hate Nazis.
I think that might be Rabbi Hannah.
It might have been.
Rabbi Han is fucking awesome. For those of you who aren't on TikTok, please follow them.
Yeah, it might have been, but yeah, it's if your anger, justified as it might be, is causing more harm than good, you need to put it down. It doesn't matter if it's justified. And that's a hard place to be in, speaking as someone who's often filled with that kind of rage. That is a hard fucking thing to do.
Really quick, I wanted to point out some more comments. For me, when I start spiraling, I have to start a new batch of meat or beer. Working the grains and spirits settles and grounds me. That's from Finn. I think that's amazing.
That as a brewer, no, that fucking tracks. That I dig that.
Emily said, "Sarenth, you have an Aegis Elmer tattooed on you. Your light bulb is always on, Odinson." That's fair, but this shit was happening well before that. I actually saw a bit of a drop off after I got the Aegis Elmer on me. So, like, it served its purpose. For some people,
it just is just always there. I mean, like when I met you guys in person, you used a phrase, "shiny."
Yeah,
when someone is shiny. I think if you're shiny sometimes in that respect, you just are. Like, it doesn't really, like, you can try your absolute best to have a,
I think that's an Emilyism.
Off duty and on duty, but like,
yeah,
it's still gonna happen. You're still shiny.
Yeah.
Me yesterday looks up and goes, where's the other shoe? And it's gonna fun flying out of somewhere. I mean, that's trauma talking.
Yeah.
That's not to say your trauma is always wrong, but
that's what that is. Also, I gotta say, I'm really glad my light bulb doesn't go on in the way that y'all's do. Like, I end up handing out a lot of homework. I have that light, but mine is almost always other spirit workers that are like, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, yeah, you probably do. You probably have homework, and I'm probably going to give it to you. For me, it's not random people. It's almost always other spiritual specialists who are like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah.
It's really funny. Like, half the time when people come and talk to me and this random motherfuckers, I'm like, have you talked to your pastor about this? Or have you talked with your spiritual advisor? No. I'm like, well, you fucking should. I ain't him.
You clearly need to talk to a spiritual specialist, and I'm not yours. Please go talk to them.
They always look at me like I punched them in the mouth, but it's like, why are you talking with your pastor about this? And then they look at you like they have this moment of existential horror, and then it goes back to just regular face again. It's really fucking funny.
Yeah. And we are all shiny, Emily. Emily says all three of you are shiny. That is definitely true. Yes,
so are you.
I'm differently shiny than the other two, and I'm very grateful for that fact because I don't play well with the general public. That's why I'm a lab tech, not a nurse.
Oh God! So I used to read publicly at a store, and I damn near made a sign like this.
Hey, have you talked to your ancestors?
You and me both, Sarah.
Yeah.
You and me both.
Like, I actually had one person where they sat down and they said, all right, before I even fucking draw any runes, do you have an ancestor shrine? No, you should get one. Why? Do you still want this reading? They're going to be talking at you. And I immediately drew a Thala. And I was like, here we fucking go.
Yep. And Emily says, that's fair, Maleck. You are professional shiny.
Professorial
shiny. Oh, professorial. No, that's 100%.
Yeah, when I was doing live shows back in the day on YouTube, like just like whatever bullshitting kind of things, and people would come in with questions. A lot of the questions were like, is the Morrigan following? And does the Morrigan want to talk to me? Or does so and so want to speak to me? Or do my ancestors, give a fuck? Or what? Insert question here. And it was always, did you ask them?
Why are you asking?
Like,
did you ask them yourself?
But yeah, like, did you ask them? I'll wait. I think, and it was always no. And then they would follow up with like, but how do I ask them? Well, you literally ask them. You can give them like a parameter. You could use tarot. you could use, like, come on, there are so many different ways that you could do this. Did you ask them?
Right. And
like, you're here at a pagan live show watching witches. Your name is probably a witchy name. I'm going to assume you know at least one form of divination here of some sort.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, a lot of times in some of the Discords that I'm on, I'm a moderator, and one server in particular is not intentionally, but ends up being aimed at kind of newer practitioners really regularly. People coming in asking real basic questions, which isn't a problem, right? Let's
No.
spot. But very frequently we have to be like, look, divination is just, there's obviously multiple definitions for it, but how we talk about it here is literally divination is just talking to the divine through a medium. That's it. There's a
flashcards for your brain.
Yeah. There's 1,001 mediums. I don't care what medium you have as long as it's...
I mean, not to trivialize them, because there is a holiness within that. But yeah, they function as kind of like flashcards for your brain, as archetypes. And, you know, like there's stories within them and such. And yeah, like they're there for conversation.
Yeah, like what you are doing is having a conversation with the divine. Does the divination method...
I can't tell you how many times I have taught someone how to use tarot who knew how to use tarot. And they were like, okay, what spread are we doing? And I went, what?
What do you mean, what spread are you
doing? Because like, yeah, I know spreads, but like, I don't use spreads for this.
Yeah.
You talk with them. You talk to them. And you pull and you talk some more. And if you're not sure, you get another deck to back it up. And then you got someone else behind them saying, yeah, that thing, what he said. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And like, this was my last topic to Sarenth, was like the difference in cosmologies with different divination systems and a whole thing. It was a huge post. It was really good. You should go read it. You know, let me just...
You should. It's fucking long.
It is very long. It's very good. I really enjoyed it. I have thoughts, but I keep forgetting to respond because, again, depressed and busy. But, you know, it's fine. But, like, does the divination method matter? Yes, absolutely. And also not at all. As long as it's reliable for you, I don't care. Fucking, are you flipping coins? Are you slamming a can of soda in the parking lot and reading the bubbles? I don't care, dude. Just as long as you... As long as you can reliably interpret what is being said.
Yes.
Fucking have at it.
Also, I am a fan of cross-checking.
Yes.
So, like, if you, I mean, and this was in my Ancestor 102 course, mini plug. Anyway, in it, I talked about using different methods of divination to cross-check. And one of them was like pyromancy and tarot, for instance, and using them to back each other up as you are doing that. You double check. If it works for you, absolutely. Like, that's what it is. But if you have two completely different forms and they are both saying the same shit, it's really hard to be like, oh, I'm influencing this.
Right.
Yeah.
This is like where I don't care for pendulum. I know it works for some people really well. And my problem is because of how it works for me, I'll do it for scrying purposes. Like if I'm trying to find something on a map, it's worked really well, but I don't trust it for yes or no answers, especially because I worry too much about subconsciously influencing which way it swings.
Yeah.
I don't do pendulum in that way. I use it for, oh, hi, this is Molly. Hi, baby.
Hi, kitty.
Said, mother, I would like attention. Not that kind.
No, but she wants the salad in front of me. Yeah, no. There is a piece of chicken, though. I'll give you a piece of chicken.
I do love that she knows what you are saying and is like, okay, that's good enough.
I have to suck off the branch, though, because you're not getting that. Come here.
My first use of course is divine conversation back and forth. Are you reading and are you listening? Also, really good fucking questions. Like, the thing that so as a professional reader, one of the things that drives me the fucking battiest is when I'm doing a div and somebody is reading the reading, and it's like, no, sit there, calm the fuck down. Even if I'm laying a Celtic cross down, you may not know how I'm using the spread.
Not only that, but your meaning of the cards may have a different variation in how they play together than someone else. Like, I mean, the cards always have like a default meaning, but how you interpret them to how your relationship with those are can be different to some degree. So like someone else coming in when they look to you for a reading, it's kind of insulting and disrespectful.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm kind of bad about reading the reading on accident because diviner, I auto fly into that.
Now look, if it's friends together and whatever, and you guys are like learning new cards, that's a different situation.
For sure.
Yeah.
But very frequently I'll have people, because I'm a fairly good diviner, people will be like, you know what this means, right? When they're doing readings for me, and I'm like, no. That is why I came to you, because I'm not doing reading. Shit. I would like you to tell me.
I hate that shit. I cannot stand it because, like, no, don't fucking do that to your readers. Please don't. Because, like, if you don't trust that they know what the fucking cards and runes are or whatever medium they're using, if you don't trust that they know their shit, or even if you're getting a free reading at, like one of the ones that I frequently do is I'll go to Convocation and I will do Green Woman's Divination Invitational, and some folks are going to have the little booklet or whatever with them, and they're going to be reading out of it. That's fine for the context of they're fucking learning. And if they look at you and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" They're learning. In that situation, I'm cool with it. The problem is like if I'm going to somebody and they ask me, "What do you think of this?" that immediately puts me in the back foot because I'm not here to interpret for myself. That's why I paid you or why I'm here.
Absolutely. And I will also say that I am not against people reading from the book if it's, what I mean by this is like a bibliomancy kind of situation.
Yeah.
Where it's not verbatim, but you're letting your eyes kind of rest and see what jumps out. I've used it that way before. I've seen other people use it that way before. I don't mind that. If you're learning your deck, cool. Like you're at a different space. And so, of course, they may be like, okay, well, what do you get from this if they know you're a reader? But yeah, I do get what you mean about like paying someone for that. But also I will say, if you're going to pay someone and give your energy to someone, you should know that they are worth doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like
Absolutely.
You should have already checked other spaces, other people maybe that have gone to them, looked into some of their work, that kind of thing. Like there are many ways to do that without just kind of like paying someone and then being like, I don't know if I trust you. Let me tell you about your cards.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you don't actually want a reading. You want a pat on the back.
Right.
Yeah.
Ma'am. No.
I would like more, please.
No. Off the working altar. You know better.
Puts Mentos in Coke can and shakes. Yes, this is my divination method, JK. I mean, you joke, but how is that really different from taking Haruspice from a slaughtered animal?
Yeah.
You're just waiting for the Coke can to blow up.
Yep.
I mean,
no,
fair is fair. I mean, if you're going to read tea leaves or if you're going to read coffee grounds, I mean,
again, I say you can't tell me that you're on a witchy platform and you don't know at least one form of divination. Even people who aren't witchy usually know one form of divination, whether they know it or not. Whether they know, they know. They've scried bubbles. They've looked for shapes in clouds. They have, counted or seen shapes in marble or the ceiling tiles, the square ones.
Yep.
Yes.
Human brains are amazing, possibly the best pattern recognition machines in all of existence. And we do it automatically and subconsciously, so much so that like it becomes a problem for divination, right? Where you're looking for patterns where they're not really there. But like, no, you're going to subconsciously look for patterns. And if you know you're having a bad day and this pattern keeps popping up while you're having a bad day, look, you're going to do that whether you're witchy or pagan or just a hardcore atheist. Like, that's a thing your brain's going to do.
Right. Finn says, I hate reading for the other reader. Don't get me wrong. There are some that are great to read for, but when they read the reading, for fuck's sake. And right there with you.
Yep.
I think it's important to know or read the meaning and also overlay what you're hearing. Both aspects can give insight. Yeah, I agree. And I think, honestly, that's the difference between just fucking around and slapping down cards for the sake of doing it and actually trying to get a genuine answer, because there's going to be some times where I'm literally just getting the rune poem when I'm laying down a rune. And all I'm getting is like a strict interpretation from the rune poem. And then there's other times where it's like, all right, look, I know what this usually means, but here's what it's showing me.
A beautiful example of this was a reading that I did for you a while back, and I won't go into details about it. But I was doing a rune reading for Sarenth, and Hagalaz popped up. And it was a yes-no question. And in 99.9% of cases, Hagalaz is a hard no.
Yep, same.
It is about the second hardest no that I get. The hardest no I get for me is with physical runes is Ansu's Inverse. But Hagalaz is 99.9% of the time hard no for a yes-no question. But we were reading for Jotnar. We were talking with Jotnar. Yep. And that wasn't a no. That was a yes. I was like, look, most of the time this is no.
Right.
But this time it's yes, and also I did 3 more runes to confirm that it was yes. And he's like, "Yeah, no, of course, I know you know what you're hearing." And I'm like, "Okay, good."
Context matters.
It doesn't matter.
So to that end, like Destiny B says, I could pull 10 spreads. It has the same card, but that card has a different meaning each time. Wildly different meanings depending on context. Absolutely agreed.
Yes, no, context matters a lot. Even when you have like rote definitions, this thing in this space means this thing. Right? Like, and some divination methods have very strict meanings, right? If you're reading classic tarot in classic tarot sense, some of those cards have very strict meanings. They mean what they mean.
Right.
But context always matters.
Right.
This is another reason I also like to blend decks. Like, I said decks with an E.
I mean,
anyway.
Whatever.
We are in NSFW show, like, do what you want.
But no, I like to blend decks because they have different voices.
He's not gonna. He's just.
I know.
Going.
Now they're
Just
like, are you imagining like puppets? They have
going.
different voices and different ways to say it, different energies with that. And so when you are looking, when you're reading for someone, and you've got like your traditional tarot happening, but then you've got, I don't know, something that's like a variant of, not necessarily an oracle, but like soul cards, as I like to call them. They're a little bit different in how they read. Like Wisdom Keepers. Wisdom Keepers is a really good example of something that isn't a tarot deck, but also isn't necessarily an oracle to me either. They go deeper. Mm-hmm. Those together, you get both covered. You get your traditional sense, but you also get this more sort of intuitive landscape going in as well. And so like that's another reason that I'm such a believer in blending those, because you can get this really interesting, it's like, blending colors. You get a new color out of it.
Yeah.
And because context matters, because situations can change, I like doing that intuitively and picking what's going on, like who wants to talk, asking. I literally will ask them, who wants to talk today for this person?
Yep.
And then they're the ones that volunteer in unison. And I mean, there are combinations I've never used together. And I'm like, oh, let's see. I do it all the time on Saturday Divination. And it does. It suits the different context, the different situations. People are different.
I like this because I'm going to piggyback off of it in part. Your system of div matters. If certain cards or patterns have known meanings, you should know or be learning them. Otherwise, why are you using that system? But your interpretation on top of that system matters too. And I'll agree. So the way that I kind of think about this is it's like color theory. Even if you know jack and shit about color theory, you know that blending certain colors together, you're gonna lose. After a certain point, if you blend yellow and blue together, you're gonna start to lose the yellow and the blue after a certain point.
Yeah.
You don't have to know the fucking color wheel. You just, you're going to see it. It's literally going to disappear in front of your fucking eyes. It's no longer going to be yellow. It's no longer going to be blue.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're using a system in which, what you're aiming for is something between those two colors, great. But you have to know what yellow and blue look like separately before you start blending those colors to know.
Absolutely. I 100% agree on that. You do need to no. I am really big on getting to know your decks. When you get a new deck, get to know it. Make sure you spend time with it. And
make sure it makes sense to you.
Yeah, and bullshit with it too on some level. You know what I'm saying? Don't just do your spreads. Just talk to it and see what vibe it has.
Put it through its fucking paces.
Exactly. Try it on different things. Put it in some shadow work. Put it in some see what it performs in, what it wants to perform in, what it likes, what it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then blend it.
Yes. I also want to jump off of the color blending metaphor because this ties into the context thing extremely well. I'm going to go on a tangent. Run with me on this. So colors are one of the best examples, or the most easy to illustrate examples of how language and context and cultural context makes a huge difference for how we interpret the world. We, speaking English, interpret, and in America in the modern day, interpret color based on color wheel or light spectrum, some combination of those, right? Which those are different systems, even though we tend to think of them as the same, but those are different color systems.
Sure.
They are, and if you dig into them, they are different color systems, and they're actually not entirely, but partially mutually exclusive.
Right.
But, we think of them as the same because of our cultural context.
Right.
Yeah.
But not everyone across time and space and language has thought of colors and does think of colors in the same way. There is a color system in the modern world, in a modern language, that has it's a quadrant system, and colors fall into, have two if I'm remembering correctly, and I believe it's Southeast Asian, I believe it's Filipino, but I don't know that for sure, so if I'm incorrect, please do not, I'm not 100% sure. But
at Maleck in the comments. At Maleck in the comments.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's fine. If I am wrong, correct me, but also don't be mad at me. I'm not saying it's a fact. Anyway, so there are two qualifiers, wet or dry, and rough or smooth, and they're spectrums. But those are the qualifiers for their color system. That's what those words translate into English as.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I have no fucking idea what that means. I have no idea how to qualify a color as wet to dry and rough to smooth. That makes no sense to me. But also, even across time, our word for maroon, which is a shade of red, comes from if I'm remembering correct, it's either maroon or crimson, and I forget which one. No,
it was red and then it turned to green.
Nope, I'm thinking of a different thing. Okay. Chartreuse was red, turned to green. That's another kind of classic example of this. But the word for either maroon or crimson, I forget which, comes from a Latin word. And if you look at how that word is described what that word describes in the literature, it covers color ranges including gold, red, and turquoise.
I think that's crimson.
These all had the same color. We would classify those as three different colors, and it's hugely different from each other, right? Turquoise is blue-green, gold is in the yellow spectrum, and then crimson is red.
Mm-hmm.
Those are hugely different to us. Those are
even turquoise in itself is it depends, because turquoise can be more blue or more green, depending on your turquoise.
Or one of the
but not only that,
interpretation skids where people like kind of get lost is like wine dark sea. What the fuck is that supposed to be?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. But not only that, but you're talking about like the understandings of the colors. Not only that, but let's just get real basic on it. In color magic, for instance.
Oh God.
There are so many different meanings for one fucking color.
Yep.
Like when people go, well, what is death to you? A lot of people here will say like black.
Yep.
But in a lot of cultures, it could be red, it could be white, it could be like it depends entirely on your cultural context. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so like this idea that the word that we mean to say red, if you trace it back to, linguistic roots, does not mean what we think of as red. It means a huge color spectrum that includes things that we would absolutely never call red. It matters. The cultural context, the systemic context for what you are looking at. There is a significant difference between color magic depends on the magician. White is death in so many places. Exactly. Like in, I believe it's India, white is a funeral color.
Right.
Whereas here in America, white is a wedding color.
Right.
Those are wildly
Also,
different meanings.
What if you were a practitioner, whatever word you want to use there, who had synesthesia?
Oh God.
How does that work? Right? I mean, like it works for them, I'm sure. I would be fascinated to hear about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I think if memory serves, like synesthesia is programmed through cultural channels because your brain is programmed through cultural channels.
Yep. It is programmed through cultural channels. It can be changed though, if I'm remembering correctly. It can be changed, though it's extremely difficult to once it's programmed in.
Yeah.
It's
red
really
is a traditional wedding dress color in India.
Right.
Yeah.
And in some cultures, red is a color of death. Red is hard or bad. It's extremely culturally dependent. Another example is like you take the words that we translate to be priest.
Oh gods, yeah.
Right? Gothi versus a Roman priest in the Republic era versus an Apollonian priest at the Temple at Delphi versus a modern Shinto priest.
Right.
These are wildly different roles. A Gothi, for example, had social and political power. It could as easily be translated as chieftain as priest, and it had powers that we would think of as both.
Right.
And a Shinto priest doesn't have necessarily any of that.
Well, there were different needs for different cultures in different roles, and you know what I mean. So that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah. From a color theory perspective, like blar, which usually is translated as blue, which usually means like a dark blue, in the Old Norse sagas, is a color of death because that's what the fucking corpses turn.
Yeah.
When you're in the far north,
they turn blue.
Right.
Yeah.
And you see this too. When I was taking a mythology course in school, it's not a hard rule, but there is a tendency for climates that are warm, mythology and climates that are warm, to have their underworlds be to the south or to be towards the warm place, right? Where it's fucking hot because that's how you die. Is you're in the desert, you die of heat stroke. Versus if you are like Scandinavia, if you're up north, it tends to be to the north. It tends to be to the cold place because that's how you're gonna die. Is you're gonna fucking freeze to death.
Right. And Destiny points out something really important. For me, there's a life green and a death green. The shade's also extremely important. And this is also true because lighter blues implicate sky, implicate, the good things in life, the good rain versus the fucking cold, which is going to freeze your toes and steal your breath.
Yep.
I mean, that tracks because there is like a light green to me, which is like that vivid green, that vivid, like almost lime looking green. And then the death green to me is a green that I actually would associate with hell.
Oh yeah.
Which is like a very lichen moss gray green almost.
Yep.
And it's a very specific color, but that is a death green for sure.
It's a gangrene green versus
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's funny that Blar point that I made earlier is actually one of the interpretations for half of Hell's face.
Oh yeah. Yes, you're right. It is. Yes.
Emily says, I think the magician's ancestral lines are also a factor in the equation, as well as the magician's current cultural context. And I think that's absolutely true as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you inherit from your ancestors, whether good, bad, or indifferent, you inherit from them, right?
I think it's also important to unpack where those cultural contexts come from. Like, why do we have white wedding dresses? Why are they multi-layered cakes so important?
Yeah.
For weddings.
I think so many people go, oh, because that's what we've always done.
And it's not.
I hate that answer.
Yeah, like
as an ancestor worker, I hate that answer.
Yeah,
do better.
No, it's not. No one has done the thing forever. That's not a thing. Everything has changed over time.
And
absolutely.
This is what I was going to point to, actually.
Queen Victoria. Yeah.
Multi-layered wedding cakes and the color white for weddings. It's Queen Victoria. Actually, a good chunk of our modern fuck all comes from Victoria.
Yeah.
Like.
I highlighted the wrong thing. And as Destiny B says, Streaking Fate, and also their training and background in particular fields. Yeah. Everything.
Which again, it becomes their history.
Yeah. Everything I do is colored by the fact that I'm a post-structuralist, right? That was where most of my academic training came from.
You know, I never thought about that, but that makes so much fucking sense now, Maleck. Yeah.
Have I not talked about that?
It didn't click. No. Like, I mean, I've heard you talk about it, but it didn't fully click. And until you just said that, and I was like, oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, no, like so much of my training is in post-structuralism and mythology and Marxism stuff. Like, I've got a lot of training that influences how I look at things. And it's like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm a microbiologist by training and trade. Like, I think in terms of microbes and post-structuralism. That's what the fuck I do.
See, a lot of my upbringing had to do with being in the country, out in the middle of fucking nowhere. So there's a lot of like folk kind of use what herbs you have available, that kind of like makeshift thing. There is also the fact that I have native ancestry. And so that was a big play on things, drums and dream work and animism in general and how you look to things and how you relate, learning from that how you should live your life in balance with it, like all of that stuff. But then also the different tribes, because each tribe has a different spirituality and religion, guys. And
you mean they're not just one? They're not just the natives?
If I hear one more person say Native American spirituality, I'm going to scream in the middle of their sentence. That's how I feel about that.
You should.
You're definitely
and I don't mean like just in the middle.
No, anyway. And you should. Because
and then I've also got the Anglo-Saxon side, the Norse coming, like, so it's a hodgepodge. And then I've got the fact that I was in a British hereditary coven.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that happened. And then also now Luxunis as well, which is very much about channeling energy and that kind of, so portal work, shit like that. So all of those together do influence what my practice looks like. And so it also influences how I'm going to think about colors, how I'm going to think about shapes, how I'm going to think about, words and different shit like that. And like, so yeah, even within one tradition, when practicing within that tradition, it may look that way. But to that person at home, they often are a hodgepodge of all of the things.
Right.
Yep.
My point in that, I guess, again, is context is everything.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, especially when you're talking about something like where you're reaching back to ancestors and they're reaching forward to you. There's been times where people misunderstand I come back to a particular client that I had because I kept getting this bear showing up and I couldn't fucking figure it out. And I'm like, there's some crazy ass ancestor that's like showing up as a bear, but they want to wrestle me. And it had something to do with their grandma being strong enough to, like, using the phrase strong enough to wrestle a bear.
Uh-huh.
And it clicked for them, and they're like, "Oh, I know exactly who that is," and da 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 da, and that's what all this means, and everything like clicked into place for them. I'm like, I'm glad that all fucking makes sense for you.
Right. To me, I was like about to wrestle a bear.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they started laughing because they understood the phrase as soon as it fell out of my mouth. And I'm like, what the fuck does wrestling a bear have to do with anything?
That shit happens though. It also is always really affirming to me. Like, I believe in what I do, obviously, but like, if you're ever having a day where you're like, what the fuck is my life? Those things like that will happen. And you're like, I couldn't even make this shit up. Like,
right. No, when that shit happens.
There's no way.
Like, I love it when that shit happens. It's also worth pointing out that, like, you can go to your ancestors for advice. And very often I recommend that. And also sometimes they're going to give you bad advice because their context is different than yours.
Also, like, be specific on who you're going to, right? Because like, they have different skill sets.
100%. I tell the story frequently. I had a ancestor who I'm extremely close with. He is the closest, arguably the closest to me, aside from literally my wife. I went to him because I was having trouble with my boss. And he was like, do not come to me with this because my advice for you is to take him out back and actually murder him. And I was like, I can't do that. He said, I know you can't do that, but that is the only advice I have for you. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to somebody else.
Like, right, I'm going to get a second opinion.
Yeah. He's like, don't come to me with this.
Emily points out we also have only a very small sliver of ancestors' DNA. My dead are very loud. Some of them are very aware of how impactful they are. Yeah, me fucking too. Yeah, even if we aren't carrying their physical DNA anymore, ancestors can script your life if you're not aware. Be aware. Yeah, like that. Destiny. Me talking to Chris early on. So there's wolves. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah. I'm glad you're talking to Chris, because if you weren't talking to Chris, you'd be talking to me. So, like,
you know what's really funny is that so many people that I have worked with also have some sort of tie to pack magic. So many. And I remember when I first met Maleck, I was like, oh, this is a sibling, like, from somewhere else. Like, I know you.
How's that reading going, Chris?
Oh, it's not, but it's gonna.
I know. Look, like Sarah said way at the beginning, we're not on a timeline. You got time. It's fine.
It's one of those things where I want to be in a position to really sit down and read it. And I mentioned earlier I'm on new meds and things like that. I think that's part of it, is to be in a place where I can absorb that.
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to do that.
Also, if it's easier for you, we can just have a conversation about stuff, because I know, like, reading stuff isn't always the best for people. If it's easier for you to process editorially, hit me up. We'll set up a time and we'll talk.
Honestly, it would be, if possible.
We'll set up a time. Like, we'll figure it out after the show, and we'll set up a time and we'll talk, because that'll.
But yeah, like, the wolves. The wolves.
They're.
So, I don't want to speak on anything that's Destiny's, because I don't talk about people's shit outside of their session that isn't, but I will speak on mine and my wolves. My wolves are my ancestors. And when I mean that, I mean, like, wolves as in W, like capital W, but also wolves as in my ancestors take the form of wolves to bring messages to me and such often. One of my earliest memories was being 13 or 12, somewhere in there, and having a dream that I was running with wolves as a wolf. Like, I could see the fog coming out of my nose and my paws on the ground running, and I was with my pack. And then but that was after, because I was at first it started in a clearing. And this is how I found like one of my main sort of companions, if you will, or part of self, not really companion, but self, which is they were across the way from the clearing, and I could see the gold eyes, and it was nighttime, and I, instead of running, knelt, like one knee, like dropped the knee to be on their level, and they charged me. And there was a moment in it of like, get up, run, run, run. Like it was trying to intimidate me. And I stayed and was like, I trust you. And I opened up my arms like this and just stayed there. And as soon as it impacted me and hit, I woke up. And that was the meeting of one of my inner animals, my inner forms, when I am on the other side. It's evolved over the years, but that was the beginning.
I want to say something that I hope isn't too controversial, but fuck it at this point. So I think that mainstream paganism, when it went through its 60s and 70s, we're just going to take shit from cultures willy-nilly, did itself a huge fucking disservice, because now we're having to separate a lot more ice cream from a lot more bullshit.
Yeah.
Because people will get shit where wolves will show up and they automatically out of hand. It's actually, the pendulum has swung so far hard the other way from people just going, oh, wolves have shown up. That must mean that I am destined to work with the wolf as a spirit animal. We've gone from the 60s, 70s, core shamanism, wolf shows up, automatically must be a spirit teacher, messenger, to we have swung the complete opposite way. This is bullshit. I loved wolves when I was a kid. I'm going to discount this entirely. We have swung the pendulum so far the other fucking way that people are just out of hand dismissing that wolves are showing up for a fucking reason, capital R. And I say that as somebody who really denied, I do have an ultra-human belief. I believe that I'm Ulf Hefnar. I am a weird fucking heathen. I am actually genuinely shocked my name spreads as far and wide as it does with the communities that I'm in, because I have so many fucking weird personal beliefs and I'm very loud about them.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there, because I've watched a lot of people who have gone through serious crippling self-doubt where, like, no, like, dog, you've had this same dream 3 separate times. I've read on it. This is fucking real. Like, come the fuck on. This is not just, your internal bullshit. This is
when I say
you.
I remember every hair and limb in that tree, like it was the most vivid thing. And that is not a normal dream.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was one of those kind of situations.
I genuinely don't remember most of my dreams, and when I do, it's shit like that.
It's a message. Right. Yeah, exactly.
And learning to interpret.
Also, I don't know what Twilight Crisis is.
I think that's a video game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, learning to interpret the difference between spiritually significant dreams, what some people might call like medicine dreams or something like that, and like stress dreams or just your brain interpreting bullshit dreams. That's a fine line and depends a lot on like cultural context. Like, because in some cultures where dream interpretation is a big thing, there are going to be signs and cues. There's going to be, you're going to see this, or it will happen this. There will be ways to interpret that and to test the waters on that. And we don't have that anymore.
Right.
If we ever did, depending on which.
Oh, this is part 2 of what I wanted to rant on, if you don't mind me just.
Yeah, no, go for it.
This is where I have a problem with people essentializing shit from Old Norse sources. That's my jam. So I'm just going to bitch about that.
Yeah, no, dude.
So when people say that the Fylgja or the Fylgjur is only ever the fetch, they are ignoring entire chunks of evidence from the sagas and folklore that says completely otherwise. And it drives me up a fucking wall, because Fylgja means follower. It doesn't mean fetch. If it meant fetch, it would mean fetch. Stop trying to make it fetch.
Those are 2 different
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, and these are different cultures. These words mean different things because they come from different fucking cultures.
Well, when people say fetch, what they're talking about is the Scottish fetch that comes in, I believe it's a Scottish, which is an omen of death. Now, sometimes the Fylgja shows up and congrats, you're going to die now. But the problem is that it's not always. And the problem with this is that the Fylgja sometimes presages somebody arriving or presages somebody needing help.
Yeah.
So like it's got a lot of interpretations. There's a lot of wiggle room for understanding it in different fashions. So when somebody says it must only be this, ask what the motivation is.
Yeah.
I think it's just really important to learn what I would call your spiritual Rolodex, like your personal one, in those kind of things too, because like if we're talking about dream interpretation, for instance, people work differently and have different signs, just like any kind of spirit work or anything like that. Like they have different cue cards, if you will, that are tells for different things, different, imagery, etc., different words, feelings. And so for me, for instance, with my dreams, one of the things that started happening a lot is I would have dreams about people in my life, but when I had them, I could actually see their face in the dream as opposed to seeing a silhouette and the energy of who they represent.
Right.
They were actually the person with their face there. And that's when I knew, okay, I need to call this person and ask how they are, check in with them, see if there's a conversation that needs to happen where I need to.
I love this. Get it, loser. We're going to do correct fucking research and interpretation. And unfortunately, our guest is frozen.
Yep. Chris, if you can still hear us, you froze, and we can't hear you, just as a heads up. Sometimes it's helpful to leave and then come back.
Maybe.
I'm going to shoot them a message. We are getting on a little over 2 hours, so we should probably wrap up anyway.
Yeah. I think like if we were to like summarize a lot of what we've already talked about, like not only does context matter, but having an understanding of your own biases, the biases of the people that you're relying on for interpretation and translation is important. Essentializing is a problem in a lot of translations. Essentializing, boiling down concepts is a problem in a lot of translations. This is why getting a hold of multiple translations, if you are interested in a particular text, is very important.
And this is also why, just running with the translation thing a little bit, why in many translations, the footnotes are as or more important than the text.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, you can't cut the footnotes out. That's not a thing you can do. If you have a translation that has footnotes, you need to fucking read the footnotes. Like, I'm 100% serious. Like
knowing the bias of your readers or mentors is important. Like when people come to me, I work with the runes as spirits. I do not look at them as tools alone.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And when so in my understanding, like the Elder Futhark, I am being informed by the Norwegian, Icelandic, Swedish, and Anglo-Saxon rune poems because there are no fucking rune poems for Elder Futhark.
Yeah. And more than that, too, even like on a less fundamental level, or a less structured level, I guess, you're also a lot about discipline and regiment, and you like rote prayers and you like strict formulas and stuff.
Right. Oh, that's a really other good point that Emily just made. I'm also an Odinson, so that's potentially a bias. And I do let people know that up front. Like,
no, and that's the thing. Like, you're going to, I know that if you tell me that I need to follow strict XYZ regimen from a reading, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. Not because I don't trust you, but because I know how you are. Exactly. Right? It's not that I don't trust you. I trust you literally with my life. Also, I know that you are really hard on strict regiments.
Absolutely.
And if you tell me that there's a strict regiment that I must follow, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to get confirmation on that before I do. And
I want you to.
Exactly. One, good readers will always want you to at least have some kind of confirmation. Shit, I had a thing I was going to say.
This is a really good point, really quick.
Yeah.
You let the spirits take the lead when you read, and that really helps remove your personal bias. You go deep in trance to put yourself in the backseat. That's true.
It does.
You can usually tell when it's my voice.
It does help a lot. It doesn't remove 100%.
It does not.
But it does help a lot.
I'm a flesh and blood person. You're not going to just, if it was so easy to just, yeah.
Yeah.
But
when I do readings for people, I tell them who I'm talking to first, right? Like,
right.
Because you don't see that very often, where readers are like, "I'm doing a reading for you," and that's absolutely fine, and I don't have a problem with that. But when I do a reading, I am talking with someone specifically. If you want me to talk to someone for you, we can do that. I can have that conversation, but you need to tell me that ahead of time. Otherwise, I am going to XYZ spirits or gods, and I'm telling you that up front.
Right. So when I do readings for people and they're like, well, what should I do? If I'm not redirecting them off the should question, which is usually my instinct, I'm like, okay, if you're going to ask a should question, you need to be extremely specific with who you're asking this. And if it's a Norse god that I know, you need to be extremely specific with their heti.
Yeah.
Like you need to know what part of Odin or Freya or Thor or whomever you ought to know. If you're asking should questions and you're putting that much power on the reading, you ought to know who the fuck you're talking to and getting advice from.
For those who are not familiar, heti means by name or title, roughly.
Yeah, it's a poetic kenning for them, or it's a poetic by name. Yeah.
Right. Odin, to use Odin because he's got 1,000 of them. Odin, the storm god, is subtly but importantly different from Odin, the High King, from Odin, the All-Father, from Odin, the Gallows god. These are different faces, and you might get very different answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Emily says, I've refrained from beating you before, Sarenth, because your non-reader answer was so obviously biased, but the spirits came through more balanced, or at least more helpful for the querent.
This is true.
Same, like where it's been like, nope, dude, that's not the spirits, that's you. Nope, stop. All right, cool. Okay.
Sorry, I lost internet.
You're fine.
I figured.
I'm glad everything's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're back with us.
What did I miss?
We're kind of wrapping up, talking about
grains of salt and biases.
Grains of salt biases with readers and everything else, doing correct research. How important that is. Sarenth has talked about like being able to remove himself through heavy trance from readings. I've talked about how like I inform people, and Chris has seen this almost every Saturday, where I'm like, hey, these are the decks or divination system I'm using. This is who I'm talking to when I use this system, right? Because I've got a deck that I use only to talk to Lupa. I've got a deck that I use only to talk to Frigga and Freya. You're going to get different answers out of those decks.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking to a different person.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the points that I was like making is like, should readings are really dangerous, and if you're going to ask them, you ought to know exactly who you're asking them of.
What readings? Say that again.
Should or ought kind of readings.
Yeah.
Should I do so much power in my hands as a reader, or in the hands of whatever spirit you're asking the question?
Yeah. What should I do? That depends who you're asking.
Yes, I've been released from the Boonies internet timeout.
Yeah. Timeout. Yep. Yeah. And then, also diving farther back in the episode, also like depression, mental health, that's a bitch, and it's gonna hit you sometimes. And the quote is fantastic. Are you resting or are you rotting? And those are different things. And
they are.
If you must rot, do your best to make it aerobic, not anaerobic, right? Like, try to be useful. You're not always going to be perfect, right? Every composter is going to go through a phase where, shit, my pile went anaerobic. How do I fix this?
Right.
I picked up some bad habits while I was depressed, and I need to break those now that I'm healthy.
You're
I
not
get back to the identifying thing, because usually that's like a really good telltale sign of like, am I identifying myself by this slump, by this rot? Am I rot, or am I in rot right now?
Yeah.
Am I in a rotting phase?
Ooh, that's good shit.
100%. The difference between I'm depressed and I'm depressed right now, or I am in a depressed phase,
Yes.
Those are subtle differences from the outside, but from the inside, that is night and day.
Yep.
Right.
And that's, so I don't know if you guys remember this, but like back YouTube, maybe like 10 years ago, there was a lot of talk of like a dark goddess or like dark practitioner or like the shadow work thing before the shadow work went like a huge buzzword. But there was a lot of that kind of like dark feminine, dark masculine, dark. And I noticed in that back then that there was this tendency to wear the dark like a shield of identity.
Yep.
And when I say a shield, I mean like the pokey kind, okay?
Yeah.
Like an offensive shield that is very much like, I'm going to attack you before you get me. It's okay. I've already villainized myself before you can villainize me. And there's power in that. And it's like, okay, but what did you just do to yourself? How's it feeling in there?
I mean, it's the same shit that people are doing nowadays with shadow work, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of talking about shadow work as a form of self-integration or self-talk or therapy, they're wielding it like a club.
Yes.
And it's like, that's, for one, that's inappropriate. For two, like the dark paganism thing, I mean, it was, yeah, you can't touch me because I'm dark.
Dark.
Like, it's reactionary, right?
What was the skit? Timmy or Stuart. That the fucking, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And then he's like, I'm in my dark place. Like, that's what I think of every time is, not right now, I'm in my dark place. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, I do. Because I knew several pagans who identified so much with the dark.
And like, don't get me wrong, I love me some dark.
Sure.
Look, everyone on this podcast
not my identity.
is wearing black.
I was going to say, I'm literally wearing black. Like,
we're all wearing black. It's fine.
And you literally have a fucking Misfit shirt on.
Yeah.
I do.
You are. But also, like, and my partner is sitting next to me in black on black. Like, black pants, black shirt. Like,
Ron, you're being targeted.
and there's a black cat in the room whose name is Soot. Like,
black skirt. Yeah.
Yep.
Black.
Like,
I mean, we couldn't get more stereotypically pagan, but I mean, the thing of it is that life isn't lived in the dark or the light. You know, I mean, I could adopt a Bane voice, and oh, you adopted the darkness. I was born in it, molded by it. I mean, great, but what the fuck are you doing with it now? Besides looking edgy.
What is you had a guest on AGF not super long ago, Morpheus, I think?
Morpheus or Mortellus,
who talks about, right, death and life, they go hand in hand, right? Death is they're reflections of each other, right? Death is about life is about death. That's
Mortellus is fucking awesome when people read their shit.
My death midwife teacher once said something to me that is, we live on the inhales, we die on the exhales, and in between our life exists.
Yep.
So every time we exhale, we die. Every time we inhale, we live.
I think before I jump into another rant, I think we should probably call it here and save this for the after party, because this is just going to prompt me to rant.
So Finn says,
the
TikTok trend of shadow work being monetized with the shadow work journal just to add fodder to the buzzword fire. Yes. Okay. We are at 2 hours and almost 15 minutes. We are going to call it here. Meet us in the after party if you have time and or inclination. If not, we will catch you next time. Wonderful people. It has been a fabulous time. Emily says Morpheus, Ravenna, and Mortellus are both awesome, but Mortellus was the more recent. Yes, that's who I was thinking of. Thank you. All right. See y'all in the after party.
Wait. Before we leave.
Nope, you're right.
Plug your pluggables.
Yes, Chris.
Plug my pluggables. Okay. CrisAshburn.com. You can find me. I do mentorship. I do readings. I do energetic clearings. I am particularly focused in any kind of...
Oh, fuck. We lost them again.
Chris is back on...
Okay, there we go.
I'm back?
Yep, you're back again.
I'm hearing.
You pause for a second. You pause for a second. You
Okay.
Oh man,
I don't know what you. I don't know what I got of that, but yeah. I am particularly adept at ancestral work, so a lot of my stuff is ancestral based. I do mentorship, I do tarot readings, I do energy clearings. I do a lot of things, honestly. I've been in this for like 29 years, so yeah.
Chris has classes. And
I have classes. I have
all kinds of stuff.
There are online classes that you can do, workshops, etc. There are. There's a Discord. Come find me in that. It is free. It's not behind a pay gate. You just got to take an oath, and that oath is bound by you and your gods. Okay. But just got to take an oath. And we every Saturday have a divination meeting in there. We like to call it Saturday Call Out, but it's a friendly call out. And yeah, and then other than that, double feature Fridays, I do a live show every week or every other week on YouTube where I review like witchy shit, supernatural shit, stuff like that are series and TV shows and movies. And that's just for funsies.
Yeah, no, that's fun.
You got to keep it fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but please come find me, Cris Ashburn. There's no H in my name.
Yep.
It's just CRIS.
CrisAshburn.com. Cris genuinely is really fantastic. I will vouch for them personally. Absolutely fantastic at what they do. Yeah. Also, Emily said, Cris coming back for a third show will be a necessity. I agree. We will figure that out.
I would love to.
Indeed. Maleck, plug your shit.
Can we talk about shadow work when I come back?
Oh my God, please. Yes. I want to rip it to shreds.
That'd be great.
Fuck yes.
So my blog is Maleck, MALECK.home.blog. On there is a link to all of my other stuff, including my Patreon and stuff. I'm not super active right now because I'm busy doing like other things on the blog, but I do. Here we've got a link to Chris's
Thank you,
YouTube.
Emily.
YouTube.com/@Cris Ashburn. Yeah.
Excellent.
You can find me on basically everything but no, you can find me on TikTok or Discord or WordPress under a Maleck. It doesn't always show up because I'm not a big creator, and Google is kind of a shithead about small things. But it is what it is. Yeah, that's me. You can find me at, especially my blog has the link to my link tree, which has everything else. And that's where I'm most active is that. Hey, thanks, Sarenth, for posting it. Maleck.home.blog, and then Sarenth at sarenth.wordpress.com for his stuff.
You can find me in pretty much every social media. I am Sarenth Odinson or at Sarenth on Twitter and various other things. You can also find me at patreon.com/Sarenth Odinson. So there's all kinds of places you can find me.
Yep.
So for those of you who've made it to this far in the broadcast, thank you for joining us. We will see you in the after party. The Discord is for anybody that wants to join. You do not have to be a Patreon member. Please join us. We're going to have tons of channels for you to contribute to or to get insights through. Not only do we have memes and the usual general chat, we also have like cocktails and various other channels like that. And we will be in the after party in this Discord.
Yep. And the Discord is linked. There's a permanent invite, as long as I did it correctly, which I should have. There's a permanent invite in our YouTube about. So if you're watching this, you should be able to find that pretty easily by going to our channel. If you're not super familiar with Discord, you can use that to get there. All right. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful night, and we will see you in the after party. Bye.